Welcome to Wisdom of the Bible channel. Welcome back to our channel. Today, we're exploring a fascinating yet often overlooked mystery in the Bible, the sons of Moses. You probably know Moses as the great leader who parted the Red Sea and led the Israelites out of Egypt. But have you ever wondered what happened to his sons, Gershom and Eleazar? Why don't we hear much about them like we do with Aaron's descendants? Did they just disappear, or is there more to their story? In this video, we'll uncover their hidden legacy, looking at clues in the Bible about their roles and why they didn't become well known. Their story teaches us powerful lessons about God's timing, purpose, and the value of serving behind the scenes. If you've ever felt unnoticed or unappreciated, this episode is for you. We'll show you why Gershom and Eleazar are more important than you think and why their lives still matter today. Stay with us to learn the surprising reasons they weren't in the spotlight, how their legacy still affects us, and the lessons that will encourage you to embrace your unique place in God's plan. Don't miss this eye-opening journey into a rarely told Bible story. If you love discovering hidden truths and deepening your understanding of God's Word, be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with others who enjoy exploring biblical mysteries. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so drop a comment below, and let's grow in wisdom together. Let's dive in. The story of Moses' sons, Gershom and Eleazar, begins when Moses was in Midian. This was a crucial time in his life when he was living in exile after fleeing Egypt for killing an Egyptian taskmaster. While in Midian, Moses found safety and met Zipporah, the daughter of Jethro, a priest of Midian, Exodus 2:15-22. It was during this time that Moses and Zipporah had their two sons, Gershom and Eleazar. The first mention of Gershom is in Exodus 2:22. Zipporah gave birth to a son, and Moses named him Gershom, saying, "I have become a foreigner in a foreign land." The name Gershom comes from the Hebrew word ger, meaning sojourner or foreigner. This reflects Moses' deep sense of being an outsider during his years in Midian. Moses had grown up in Pharaoh's palace, treated like royalty. Now, he was a fugitive living in a foreign land, working as a shepherd, far from his former life. Gershom's name captures Moses' feelings of displacement, reminding us of the emotional and spiritual struggles he faced during this time. Moses' second son, Eleazar, is mentioned later in Exodus 18:3-4. One son was named Gershom, for Moses said, "I have become a foreigner in a foreign land." And the other was named Eleazar, for he said, "My father's God was my helper. He saved me from the sword of Pharaoh." Eleazar's name means, "God is my help." This name serves as a reminder of God's protection over Moses when he fled Egypt. It symbolizes how God had been with Moses through his hardships, guiding and saving him. This is not just Moses showing gratitude, it's a powerful testimony of God's faithfulness to his people. Unlike the sons of Aaron, Gershom and Eleazar did not inherit leadership roles or become key figures in the Exodus story. When God called Moses at the burning bush in Exodus 3, Gershom and Eleazar were still young. Moses, feeling hesitant and unworthy of the great mission God gave him, took his family with him as he returned to Egypt. Exodus 4:20 says, "So Moses took his wife and sons, put them on a donkey, and started back to Egypt. And he took the staff of God in his hand." This verse shows that Moses' family was part of the beginning of his journey, but after that, we don't hear much about Gershom and Eleazar. Their presence reminds us that Moses was not just a leader, he was also a husband and father, balancing personal responsibilities with his divine calling. A dramatic moment involving Moses' family happens in Exodus 4:24-26. At a lodging place on the way, the Lord met Moses and was about to kill him. But Zipporah took a flint knife, cut off her son's foreskin, and touched Moses' feet with it. "Surely you are a bridegroom of blood to me," she said. So the Lord let him alone. This event, likely involving Gershom, highlights the importance of circumcision, a covenant God made with Abraham, Genesis 17:10-14. Circumcision was a sign of being set apart for God, and Moses' failure to obey almost cost him his life. Zipporah's quick action saved him and restored their family's obedience to God. This moment teaches us that even someone as chosen as Moses had to follow God's commands. So why did Gershom and Eleazar fade into the background? Despite being part of Moses' early journey, they did not become prominent figures in Israel's history. Here are a few possible reasons. One reason is the focus on Aaron's family. God chose Aaron and his descendants to serve as priests for Israel, Exodus 28:1-3. Aaron's sons, Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar, played key roles in the priesthood, leading Israel in worship and sacrifices. By keeping Moses' sons in the background, there would be no confusion about who was chosen to lead in spiritual matters. Another reason is Moses' unique role. He was not just a leader, but a prophet, mediator, and lawgiver. His calling was one of a kind and wasn't passed down to his sons. Deuteronomy 34:10-12 states, "Since then, no prophet has risen in Israel like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face, who did all those signs and wonders the Lord sent him to do in Egypt, to Pharaoh and to all his officials, and to his whole land." This passage emphasizes that Moses' leadership was exceptional. His sons were not meant to follow in his footsteps as national leaders. Some traditions suggest that Gershom and Eleazar may have returned to Midian with Zipporah during the Exodus. Exodus 18:1-6 describes how Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, brought Zipporah and the sons to reunite with Moses at Mount Sinai. This suggests they may not have been present for the major events in Egypt and the wilderness. Even though they were not central figures, their descendants still played a role in Israel's history. 1 Chronicles 23:14-17 gives a genealogy of Moses' family. The sons of Moses, the man of God, were counted as part of the tribe of Levi. The sons of Moses, Gershom and Eleazar. The descendants of Gershom, Shubael was the first. The descendants of Eleazar, Rehabiah was the first. Eleazar had no other sons, but the sons of Rehabiah were very numerous. Gershom and Eleazar's descendants were part of the Levites, the tribe responsible for assisting in worship and maintaining the tabernacle and later the temple. While Aaron's descendants became priests, the Levites had important duties like caring for the sanctuary, protecting the temple, and supporting the priests. Numbers 3:5-9 explains this role. The Lord said to Moses, "Bring the tribe of Levi and present them to Aaron the priest to assist him. They are to perform duties for him and for the whole community at the tent of meeting by doing the work of the tabernacle. They are to take care of all the furnishings of the tent of meeting, fulfilling the obligations of the Israelites by doing the work of the tabernacle." Although Gershom and Eleazar's descendants were not as well known as Aaron's, they still played an important part in serving God's people. 1 Chronicles 23:16 mentions Shubael, also called Shebuel, as a leader among the Levites. 1 Chronicles 24:20 later records him among the heads of the Levites. As for the rest of the descendants of Levi, from the sons of Amram, Shubael, from the sons of Shubael, Jediah. Shubael's role among the Levites shows that he held a position of leadership, though it was not the same as the priesthood given to Aaron's descendants. This small but important detail confirms that Gershom's family remained faithful in their service within the Levitical order, playing a key role in Israel's worship and organization. The lineage of Eleazar, particularly through Rehoboam, is noted for its large number of descendants. 1 Chronicles 23:17 highlights this by stating that the sons of Rehoboam were very numerous, showing that Eleazar's family expanded greatly and had a strong presence among the Levites. The mention of their large numbers suggests that they were a thriving family within their tribe, even though they did not hold the highest positions. The Book of Chronicles highlights the significance of Rehoboam's descendants by focusing on how their family grew, in contrast to many other lines that declined over time. This reflects God's blessing of fruitfulness upon Eleazar's family, reminding us of his promise to multiply and bless his people, as seen in Genesis. Chapter 22, verse 17 states, "I will surely bless you, and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky, and as the sand on the seashore." Though they did not hold high priestly authority, the many descendants of Rehoboam played important roles in supporting and possibly managing Levitical duties. Their service helped maintain the stability and continuity of worship in the community. The difference between Aaron's descendants and those of Moses is a clear example of God's specific plan. Aaron's family was chosen for priesthood, a role of great responsibility and honor. On the other hand, Moses' descendants were assigned to general Levitical service without the same level of distinction. This contrast is emphasized in 1 Chronicles 24, where Aaron's sons are listed with assigned priestly duties, while Moses' sons are briefly mentioned. 1 Chronicles 24, 1-2 states, "These were the divisions of the descendants of Aaron. The sons of Aaron were Nadab, Abihu, Eleazar, and Ithamar. But Nadab and Abihu died before their father did, and they had no sons. So Eleazar and Ithamar served as the priests." This passage clearly establishes Aaron's line as the primary figures in priestly duties, reinforcing that God's callings are distinct and do not always follow human expectations of inheritance and status. Even though Gershom and Eleazar were not widely recognized in their time, their lives and the legacy of their descendants still hold great meaning. Their story reminds us that God's plans do not always align with human expectations. There are valuable lessons to learn from their lives. Gershom and Eleazar's lives teach us that not everyone is meant to be in the spotlight, and that's part of God's perfect design. While Moses' sons did not gain the fame or recognition of their father, they were still part of God's greater plan. Their story shows that God gives each of us a unique purpose, and our lives have value even if we are not in a leading role. Ecclesiastes 3:1 expresses this truth well. There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens. This verse reassures us that God's timing is always perfect, even when it does not match our own desires or expectations. Though Gershom and Eleazar did not have prominent roles in the biblical narrative, they were important in the positions God gave them. Romans 8:28 reminds us of this truth, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Just as God used Gershom and Eleazar to support Israel's history, he continues to work through our lives in ways we may not always see. A lack of public recognition does not reduce the value of our contributions when they are part of God's plan. Though Gershom and Eleazar were not famous, their descendants continued to serve God as part of the Levitical tribe. Their legacy shows us that faithfulness to God has a lasting impact, often reaching far beyond what we can see in our own time. We may not always see the full results of our obedience in our lifetime, but the seeds we plant can grow and bless future generations. Psalm 112:1-2 speaks about the lasting impact of those who follow God. Blessed are those who fear the Lord, who find great delight in his commands. Their children will be strong in the land, and the next generation of the upright will be blessed. This verse shows that those who love and obey God leave a legacy that continues beyond their own lives. Gershom and Eleazar, though not well known, were part of the Levitical service, playing an important role in Israel's spiritual life. Their story reminds us that our faithfulness can shape the lives of those who come after us, even if we never receive recognition. Hebrews 6:10 assures us that God does not overlook our efforts. God is not unjust. He will not forget your work and the love you have shown him as you have helped his people and continue to help them. This verse is a reminder that God values every act of service, even if no one else sees it. Gershom and Eleazar remained faithful in their roles, helping to sustain worship and spiritual life in their community. Their quiet dedication shows that obedience to God is more important than seeking recognition. Moses' life teaches us that God's calling matters more than fame or status. Even with his great achievements, Moses faced many struggles, doubts, and moments of being unseen. His sons did not become famous either, but their lives remind us that true significance comes from following God's plan, not seeking human approval. Philippians 2:3-4 gives us a powerful lesson about humility and service. Do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but each of you to the interests of the others. The story of Gershom and Eleazar reflects this teaching. They did not seek power or recognition, but faithfully carried out their roles. Their humility is a lesson for us to focus on serving God and others rather than striving for personal glory. Additionally, 1 Samuel 16:7 reveals how God sees people differently than the world does. The Lord does not look at the things people look at. People look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. This verse reminds us that God values our inner faithfulness more than our position or achievements. Gershom and Eleazar may not have been well known, but they were still part of God's plan and played a role in Israel's history. Their story teaches us that God measures our lives by our obedience, not by how much attention we receive. Many people today struggle with feeling unseen or unimportant, especially if they are not in leadership roles. The story of Gershom and Eleazar encourages us to find purpose in what God has given us to do, knowing that every act of service matters to him. Just as Moses' sons served quietly without widespread recognition, we too may be called to serve in ways that are not immediately noticed. Trusting in God's bigger plan allows us to find peace and fulfillment, even when our work seems small. Their example challenges us to put obedience to God above personal ambition. In a world that often values status and attention, their lives remind us that true fulfillment comes from following God's will. So, where did the sons of Moses go, and do they matter? Their story may not be well known, but it teaches us that God's plans are not always about being in the spotlight. Gershom and Eleazar's legacy may be quiet, but it speaks of God's faithfulness, and the importance of following his call. Their absence from much of the biblical story does not mean they were unimportant. It shows that God has unique plans for each of us. Whether in the spotlight or working behind the scenes, every person has a role in God's greatest story. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share. Let's continue to uncover more hidden gems of the Bible together. God bless you, and see you next time.
Hello, dear viewers. Thank you for watching our channel, Wisdom of the Bible. I personally invite you to subscribe to our channel. It supports us and helps us create more videos. Thank you, and God bless you.